Greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. Sorry about the delay, but I think we are still okay because I just managed to come on. Just give me one moment here. Set up. I hope everyone's well today, by the way. And then we will begin with talk about A View to a Kill. So just hold on tight. Oops. Okay. Great. Is the sound okay, by the way? Great. Thank you so much, Cooper Clever. Thank you. Yeah, we should be okay. Let's see. Hold on for one moment while I just set this up here. So I need to do one thing and be set to go. Give me 1 second. Okay. Great. There we go. All right, so let's see. Sorry about this. Sorry about the delay. But technically speaking, we are still on time, or what does he say? What does Max Zorn say in the film A View to a Kill? Right on schedule. So, okay, so let us begin momentarily here. So it's now 6:02 a.m. here in Japan, and yeah, it's still a little bit early for me here. So sorry about that. And we will begin very soon. So Mike Eli's here, hello. Michael or Michelle Jonker, hello. Michelle from the Netherlands, hello. Cooper Glover 1972 is here, hello. Zyrother's here, hello. Seth is here, great. Rico is here, hello. Erwin is here. Great, thank you. Philip is here, hello. Cool Kids Clips is here, hello. Timothy is here, hello. Oh wow, Arun is here. Thank you very much, my friend. Cine Arts is here, hello, great. It's nice to see everyone. Okay. Okay, so I think we can start in earnest here. So let's begin, shall we? So greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I'm very glad to be here again in a live setting. And today we will be talking about this film, which is the film from 1985, directed by John Glenn. And this is starring Roger Moore, and the film is called A View to a Kill. So today is a very special occasion from my point of view because, well, do you hear that? There's a siren outside. I hope everything is okay. Okay, sorry about that. And so today's topic is A View to a Kill. And so it's a very special occasion from my point of view because this is one of my absolute favorite James Bond films. I adore this film to bits, and so I will look forward to discussing this film and hearing your thoughts as well about it. I'm really looking forward to this. I've been so happy with the live streams of these films thus far. And I'm just looking forward to the continuation of them, of course. So that's one reason. And then the other reason is just there's something very special about this film because of the time that I was able to watch it when I did. So I'll get into more detail about that in a moment. But so today is A View to a Kill. So the way this works, as many of you already know, but if you're here for the first time, thank you very much. And the way it works is the discussion is a very casual, general discussion from a film fan perspective. And so I come at this discussion not with any insider information or knowledge, just happen to have seen this film for a number of times over the course of many years as a fan. So so that's where my approach is, and so I'll try to just talk about my thoughts and comments about this over the course of today's live stream. If you want to join into the conversation, the live chat is open, and so please feel free to stop by and say hello. There are a number of people here already, and everyone is very welcoming and very friendly, so please feel free to stop by so we can talk about this wonderful film, A View to a Kill. Now, just a few just preliminaries, I suppose. So I will do my best to go through the live chat as we go along, but as with everything, I'm not perfect, so I can't keep up with absolutely everything. And so if I miss a comment or I miss a person who has stopped by, please forgive me. It's not my intention. It's just I was not able to catch up in time. And also due to some technical things, oftentimes the chat skips around on me. So I might skip over a chunk of the chat unintentionally, but due to, as I say, my computer showing me what it is it wants to show me. So so there's that. Then the other thing is, if you want to ask me a question about the film A View to a Kill, I will do my best to answer it, although, as I say, I can't claim to have every bit of knowledge about the film, and so there will be many questions that I won't be able to answer. So, but I will do my very best. And if you want to leave me a comment or question that is not related to A View to a Kill, that's great. Thank you so much for that. As always, I'm so honored that you take the time to do that. The only thing I'll say today is that I will focus my attention primarily on A View to a Kill. And so any non-A View to a Kill related question, I probably won't address directly today. So if you want to leave the question to me again, please feel free to do so in a comment to a video or something, and I'll do my best to get back to you. I really mean that too. So, let's see. Oh yes, of course. We are always very welcoming of everyone, and whether they have positive things to say about the film or negative things to say about the film, positive comments, negative comments, they're all legitimate, and so I'd like to think that we are welcoming to everyone, and so even when there is disagreement, I know that we all will treat each other in the live chat with a degree of mutual respect. And I know this because you all, my dear friends, have been so kind to extend to me that kind of courtesy over the months and years. So I really want to thank you for that. And so I know I can rely on all of you to do the same for everyone in the live chat. So thank you very much in advance for your kind cooperation. And let's see. Oh yes, of course, last but not least, I will be talking about spoilers. So of course, if you have not seen the film A View to a Kill, maybe I would very gently suggest that you turn off this live chat and then you can watch the film, and then you can come back at any time because it should be a video uploaded to this channel. And then at that time you can, of course, watch it, and you can leave comments behind if you're so interested. So Anyway, so with that, let me just quickly go to the live chat and we will get started. So, once again, so please forgive me for my poor pronunciation. Is it from the Netherlands? Is it Michael or Michel? Jonker or Jonker? Could you just let me know if my pronunciation is correct or not? Just let me know in the live chat and I'll happily correct myself. But thank you very much for stopping by, my friend. And again, I apologize for my bad pronunciation of your name. Let's see. Erwin, yes, so you say, I rewatched the film again last night, and I was surprised. I was surprised how much I enjoyed it this time around. Well, I'm very happy to hear that, Erwin. Adrian is here. Hello, hello. Let's see. Wolfgratz, our dear friend, is here. It's nice to see you. Let's see, Wolfgratz. Oh, here we go. Goodness, my goodness. Here we go. Okay, Wolfgratz says, to be honest, I wasn't keen, but this is where people usually change my mind. Yes. Let's see. Oh, Jonas Wilstrup is here. Hello. This is the first Bond film I saw in the cinema, and it's a special memory. I love that movie. Wow, that's wonderful. That is wonderful. Let's see. Adrian asks, is that your favorite Bond? Favorite Bond is in favorite Bond actor or favorite Bond film? I'm not sure actually, but it's certainly it's up there as far as my favorite Bond films go. But as I say, I haven't done any specific ranking yet. Or maybe I have, but it's always, you know how these things are. One does a ranking one day, and then maybe a minute later it changes. So let's see. Zyrother says it was interesting to rewatch it, but it was quite boring in the first. Oh, that's interesting. Oh goodness, that's interesting. Oh, the first half. Oh, with the horses. Okay, and everything up to the scene in What a View to a Kill, right? Okay, so I consider that the first half, and then it starts in San Francisco, and I think that's pretty much the second half of the film. Let's see. Well, I guess with Zyrother's comment, let me just now talk very briefly about my own approach and my own experience with this film, A View to a Kill. And it's one where I think it was mentioned earlier by our dear friend Jonas Wilstrup about how it was his first Bond film that he saw in the theater. I unfortunately was not able, if I recall correctly, to see it in the theater per se, but I did see it, and it was around the mid-'80s when I was able to see it, and it would have been VHS or something of that nature. Then, because I was born in '79, and so this was the first Bond film that I remember seeing when it was first released, because up to then I would always think of Bond films as films that were already released before I was born, or maybe when I was of a very, very young age, like a toddler age, so wouldn't necessarily be able to associate any direct memories to it. But here, for the first time, I'm beginning to be able to associate some memories of my childhood with watching a film that came out around that time, with that being A View to a Kill. So this is among the first, or one of the first Bond films that I was able to associate with in terms of a film coming out. And then as the films came out, The Living Daylights and License to Kill, etc., and then GoldenEye, of course, and the cycle goes on, then I was able to catch up, as it were, or not catch up, but keep up with each new subsequent release. But so A View to a Kill is therefore something that I associate with my earliest memories of watching Bond films as a kid. So I therefore have a fondness for it that might be based in part, or in large part in a sense of nostalgia and looking back. But I would still maybe I would try my best to disassociate any senses of nostalgia that I have with any kind of direct assessment of the film and the way I feel about it now. And I'm not sure if I'm successful, but if I were to try to, in my head, to try to disassociate the nostalgia feelings with those of how I directly feel about the film, still, I think this is so great. I think the structure is actually quite it's quite it's quite a strong structure, and it has a great villain. It has great characters. I think Roger Moore is charming and witty, and he has the screen aura that is so undeniably Roger Moore, and the like. And so, and the plot, I think, is a very, it's very complex actually. And in fact, I'll try to go over what I think the plot is later in this live stream. But I don't know. I'm not a geologist, but I I'm doing my best to try to keep up with the plot, and actually, it's pretty complicated from my point of view. And maybe someone or you in the chat can help me out in trying to clear up some confusions I have about it. But the point I wanted to bring up with that is that I think it's actually a very complicated plot, and I like how the plot is revealed throughout the film. It's revealed in sort of piecemeal, in a type of detective mystery manner. So we, along with James Bond and Stacey Sutton, are and Chuck Lee, etc., and we are left to try to put the pieces together ourselves, and without relying on any kind of grand villain reveal, so to speak, which is often the case, greatly, of course, don't get me wrong, which is often the case in past Bond films. But here we have a reversal in that respect, in my view, which I think is it keeps the approach to the Bond film very fresh, and thus I like that sense of freshness. But at the same time, it is also a Roger Moore Bond film. It is a John Glenn Bond film. It stars Christopher Walken and Grace Jones and Tanya Roberts. I know maybe some people have some issues about Stacey Sutton as a character. I think Stacey Sutton is a great character, and I defend. I will defend this film to my dying breath, including Stacey Sutton, because I think she is such a great friend in the James Bond universe, for reasons that I will try to cite later in this live chat, and as well as others. And I think also, of course, much has been said about Zorin, Christopher Walken, and Grace Jones Mayday. I think this is one of the great villain pairings in all of James Bond film history. This villain pairing is dynamite, right? And you have all the other characters surrounding this villain team up. Scarpine, Panhove, Jenny Flex, Dr. Mortner, and you have this little team of villains and the double cross and the triple cross and with Max Zorin at the head, with this really odd and strange background in history, and of course emphasized with great relish and delight by the quirkiness of Christopher Walken's performance, which is brilliant, by the way, of course, etc., etc. And so and John Barry's score, and etc., etc. So that these elements for me have always made this film top-notch Bond for me. Always. And it's always been constantly top-notch for me. And then along the way, when I was a kid and growing into my teenage years and the like, and you start to get a sense of the James Bond fan community, I began to realize just how little regarded this film generally tends to be critically. And so I would always see like 1.5-star reviews or half stars. I would always be so shocked, actually, because I always thought in my mind, this is a great one. This is a real great one. I think many of the negative appraisals tend to cite things like Roger Moore's age in the film, and also the use of like Beach Boys or something like that. But I don't know if I would necessarily say that the film is a perfect film for reasons like, say, I don't know, well, maybe some musical choices might be a little bit interesting, I suppose. But if we were to go with Roger Moore, I think Roger Moore looks great. And of course he's older. Of course he is. He's been in the role for a number of years. But I think despite that, or given that, there is no attempt at trying to make him. I mean, he looks like James Bond would look like at that age, but he looks great. I think he looks absolutely great, and he's got the Roger Moore isms down to a T. And there are a lot of Roger Moore here in this film, which I think is great. It adds to the flavor and charm and atmosphere of the film, and so I think that age component really works in the favor of this. Plus, also, it is, we acknowledge, the last of the Roger Moore James Bond films. There are a lot of things one can look at as a kind of reminder of James Bond film past, Roger Moore James Bond film past, all the way back to Live and Let Die. And so this film is, in my eyes also, a great way to end the series of Roger Moore Bond films. And it has links to Live and Let Die, which I'll try to get to later in this live chat. But in any event, my friends, this and many other reasons are why I love the film A View to a Kill. And so I will go down defending it to the very end with great pleasure, of course. So with that, that's my opening salvo, as it were. And so let me now first go to the live chat and see what it is you have to see. Okay, so Cooper Glover, 1972, says, the Golden Gate Bridge is what stands out for me and how they put that together. Also, when Bond is hanging over San Francisco Bay from the blimp, always makes me catch my breath. Yes, the finale is one of the best. And the Golden Gate Bridge sequence is one of the best in any Bond film, I think. So, and let's see, Zyrother agrees. Yes, the finale is really good, best part for sure. And Cooper Glover continues, I love how they use the electric guitar for the action scenes in the movie. Seth Waltz, Bollinger, 75, and that's great stuff. Yes, let's see. Yes, Wolfgrat says, I was encouraged by Steed, aka Patrick McNee. Yes, Patrick McNee makes a big appearance in the first half of the film. Irwin says, get Zorin for me. It's a reference to Mayday, one of the great characters in James Bond films, in my opinion. And Seth says, the Eiffel Tower chase is great. Reminds me of the Naked City final chase. Oh, yes, or it also has echoes of the early chase, car chase in Live and Let Die as well. Oh, my car. Oh. That's great. And it has a great link at the very end of the film, View to a Kill. There's never a cab when you want one. That's what Roger Moore Bond says at the very end. And Stacy said, ah. And so he should have asked the taxi driver in Paris to give him a lift off of the Golden Gate Bridge, with his half car. So let's see. Yes, Cooper Glover, this is going to hurt him more than her. So, yes, this will hurt him more than me. Yes, a reference to Zorin, of course, one of the great villains. Yes, quoting Zorin in the film. Yes. Yes, Irwin says, yeah, the Eiffel Tower chase is a bit awesome, but how did Zorin scheme the finale of that? Yes, you're talking about how Zorin very conveniently was in the boat, in the speedboat, next to that little, the River Seine, I don't know what you call it, the mini ferry, I suppose, which had the wedding party, right? And all the people are dancing. Like there's one shot of an elderly woman kind of going like this with her arms, and the band is just doing the View to a Kill song, right? Right, that's great. And then Bond lands and he crashes through and he hits the cake, right? So how did Zorn happen to be there? How did he know where to wait exactly? Because you don't know, you can't plan exactly where the parachute's going to land. So So that's actually some really great timing on the part of Zorin. And also, you have to think, why would Zorin be the one to drive the getaway boat? Because that would be, if there were witnesses, people would say, oh, that's Max Zorin. They'd be able to identify him. They'd be able to associate this person in black with Zorin driving away, etc. So that brings up all these issues of the crime, because they've just committed a crime. They've killed or assassinated this person, Achille Aubergine, in the restaurant in the Tour Eiffel, the Eiffel Tower, and so that's a big crime right there. And so he's associated with this already. But fortunately, there were no witnesses. Even Bond didn't recognize Max Zorin as the driver of the vehicle there. But still, that's probably not a plot hole per se, but that's more suggestive, I think, of the fact that these two villains, Zorin and Mayday, are they're almost reckless in their criminal activities, to the point where they don't even care about hiding what it is they're doing. I mean, if you think about it, the whole thing with the butterfly, Dominique and her papillon, it really makes no sense. If you, they go in, Mayday goes in stealthily, and but she I think it's very conspicuous ultimately, because it's very obvious that she is the one who's doing it with this poison butterfly thing or something, because and the like. And so it doesn't quite make sense to me in terms of an assassin plot, because if you want to kill, it seemed like they wanted to assassinate Aubergine on the one hand in a stealth manner, but they did it in a very boisterous way, I think. But maybe that's just Mayday, that's her way. And as we know, Mayday is a killer, and she's also a foe of Bond, and also the ally of Zorin. So maybe she has her ways of doing things. But it's also a Bond film, and plus it really didn't. I'm not sure how, right, in terms of the plot, did they really need the aubergine link in order to find out that Zorin was having a sale, right, of the horses later in the month? I mean, you could probably have gotten that information from Sir Godfrey Tibbett directly, without necessarily having to travel to Paris and meet Aubergine. But still, it gives the film the opportunity to go to Paris, to have the wonderful, iconic now Eiffel Tower parachute jump, which is really dangerous, and you get a sense of how dangerous it is in the explanation that they had about the making of on the DVD and later in the Blu-ray. And there's a whole story in and of itself about the parachute jump, and how there were actually really serious issues that came up in the production related directly to the parachute jump, and particularly the stunt coordination. And it almost jeopardized the whole production in Paris, which is a really interesting story. So so the whole thing in Paris, it doesn't, I'm not sure how essential it was in terms of the plot. But as far as a James Bond film goes, I thought you've got the parachute jump, and you have the opportunity to go with this chase through the streets, and the car. Oh, my car! Oh, my car! I thought that lovely touch. It adds a kind of comic levity with the driver, which is it's essential in a Roger Moore Bond film, and I think it's integrated quite well into the action. This John Glenn directed action, or this John Glenn film action, and we have the car not just being basically sliced in half, which it recalls Live and Let Die. And remember the scene with the double-decker bus in Live and Let Die? That was sliced in half. Here we have another car sliced in half, but then sliced in half again, this ways as well as this way. So that's really quite remarkable, actually. And that leads to the scene with the cake and the wedding party, and then Zorin and Mayday driving away, and the like. So, I think it's a really nice way to open the film, and it gives a little bit of a jolt that is I think par for the course when it comes to pacing in the Bond films in the mid to late 80s, in the John Glenn era. So, great stuff. So now that leads me to a discussion of the plot. So what the heck is going on in the film A View to a Kill? So let me try to tell you what it is I think is going on. and then maybe you can correct me along the way. But first, let's go to the live chat, and we will go from there. So, let's see. Seth says, John Taylor, the bass guitarist for Duran Duran, drunkenly asked the producer about doing the theme, and lo and behold, the theme. Such a cool story. Cinema Dave Media is here. Hello, hello. It's nice to see you. Let's see. Yes, Kubrick Lover 1972 says the Russians at the start of the film sort of seem stereotyped. Yeah, I think, I'm not sure if they're meant to be the representative Russians overall, or they're meant to be members of the Russian military or guards, because what we find out later is that what Bond was investigating at the start was, or Bond or 003 or something, there was some investigation of what we understand was a Siberian research laboratory or facility, right, in Siberia. And what they found out was that the Russian or the Russian government or KGB or whatever arm of the Russian government seems to have some kind of pipeline into some Western production of specially equipped microchips. And these microchips are specially equipped because they can withstand the charge of a magnetic pulse, which is very much GoldenEye-esque, right? Because that's the whole plot of GoldenEye. And so it seems like the British government was already trying to establish these magnetic pulse resistant microchips, which are equipped in any kind of machinery, from the largest computers to the modern toaster, according to Bond. And that's interesting. I'd love to get Bond's toaster if it has a microchip in it, I suppose. Do toasters have microchips? I suppose they do, but I'm not sure. I'm not a toaster maker. But the point is that, yes, so the facility in the Siberian facility seemed to be some kind of maybe microchip related facility. And in that case, it was whatever the machinations of that particular investigation were. What ended up happening was, of course, we get this link with the microchip, and then the microchip seems to be linked to the microchips that we understand the British government seems to be handling, which are manufactured through Zorin Industries, which is this private chip maker company, which run by Max Zorin, a leading French industrialist. And then so that leads to the whole investigation of Zorin. Perhaps there is a link between Zorin and the microchip manufacturing and the KGB and the Russian government. I think that's the whole point of the start of the film, and then leading to the investigation of who Zorin is. That leads to some interesting observations about Zorin's activities in horse racing. And so the horse racing element, or the investigation into the horse racing, is in essence Bond's attempt at trying to get more information about Max Zorin, I think, which then leads to this whole plot about essentially Zorin cheating at horse racing, and this whole plot about the use of steroid injections in order to enhance the performance of a horse that is in the middle of a racing performance. And so that leads to the investigation about the horse. So Bond isn't, the British government I don't think is necessarily directly interested, or MI6 isn't necessarily directly interested in Zorin because of his horse racing activities, but they're interested in Zorin because of the initial microchip connection, which might lead to the possibility of some kind of Russian government infiltration, or another possibility, which we end up discovering, is that maybe Zorin is working for the Russian government. And in fact, we realize later that Zorin is in fact a KGB agent. So I think that explains the whole microchip connection there. So it seems like maybe Zorn is using Zorn Industries as a cover in order to manufacture microchips for the Russian government, I think. But Zorn, we also understand, has his own private enterprises and holds his own private projects, including this horse racing activity, which we understand from General Gogol to be non-sanctioned, or it's part of his own private non-spy life, as it were. And as is this project, which is called Operation Main Strike. So this is to say that the first half of the film, which is the investigation of Zorn in the background, in the context of the horse racing, isn't directly related plot-wise, I think, to the second half of the film, which is Zorn pursuing the main strike operation. But they are related, of course, in the fact that Zorn is handling both, and Bond is somehow headed, trying to investigate both. So there is that. Now, the main strike operation, or Operation Main Strike, I should do it in my Christopher Walken voice, which is, I admit, very terrible. But Operation Main Strike, right? Okay. So the Operation Main Strike component, what is that exactly? Okay, so I'm not a geologist, so I don't know what's quite, to be perfectly fair, I don't quite know what's going on. But if I understand it correctly, it's okay. So the plot of Zorn and Operation Main Strike, as I say, it's completely unsanctioned, we understand, by the Russian government. So he's not acting under orders from General Gogol or the KGB. So he's acting here almost like a rogue agent anyway, or he no longer considers himself to be a KGB agent. That's what he says. So but this whole project with Operation Main Strike is basically him on his own doing what it is he wants to do. We understand maybe he needed to rely on Russian government resources and the like, but now this is what he wants to do. So this is kind of his license to kill, because James Bond License to Kill film is basically James Bond going rogue. So if we understand Max Zorn is or was a KGB agent, this is Max Zorn's License to Kill moment in a way, or speaking. But the point is that the second half, Operation Main Strike, what is it? Okay, so it's somehow linked to microchips, because we understand Zorn Industries has some kind of stake in the microchip market, the manufacturing of microchips, and so that has to do with the sale of microchips. He seems to be focused in on cornering the microchip market, and he sees his main competitor in the microchip market being the companies and component manufacturers and suppliers, etc., that are essentially located in the Silicon Valley area, which is in San Francisco or near San Francisco. So it's a Silicon Valley area, and so he comes up with this grand scheme of destroying Silicon Valley in order to corner the microchip market. Now, how is he going to destroy Silicon Valley? So, okay, so this is where I admit I'm not quite 100% clear on, but so Silicon Valley seems to be bordering, or it's near, geographically speaking, it's near the water area, which is supplied primarily, I think, by San Francisco Bay, I think. The idea, therefore, is that if we have two fault areas or two fault lines, and fault lines or faults or fault zones are essentially referring to fractures in the sort of the rock plates of the Earth crust, and as we know, those fractures or lines or faults, whenever there is a movement of plates, that causes vibrations, very violent vibrations in the Earth's surface, which are called earthquakes. And so these fault lines or fault areas essentially are surrounding this particular part of the world, right? So the San Francisco Bay Area and Silicon Valley. So the idea is there is the Hayward Fault and there is the San Andreas Fault. So according to the explanation provided by Stacy Sutton, and then what we get from Mr. Howe and all this stuff at City Hall, etc. So it seems like Zorin, first talking about the Hayward Fault, Zorin, through his oil wells that are situated throughout the San Francisco area, Zorin appears to be using seawater and pumping water into the Hayward Fault. Now, I'm not sure what that means, pumping water into a fault area, but I think in my mind that means there is a zone there's a zone inside the Earth's sort of upper surface, Earth's crust, that allows for some kind of pocket area in which stuff can be inserted, which is, I think, water or seawater. So that's the Hayward Fault area under the surface being essentially flooded with water, or whatever that means. Again, I'm not a geologist, I don't know, but that's what the film is. Okay, so that's the one fault. Then the second fault is a San Andreas Fault, and the kind of the final act of the film is where we see Zorin and Scarpine and Mayday and Pan-Ho and Jenny Flex and all the team, and Conley and his men, working in what we understand to be an abandoned silver mine called Main Strike Mine. And then we go in, and this is the huge final setup of the film inside the mine and the whole thing. And then they're working from there, based from the mine area. They have these extended tunnels, underground tunnels, which we understand lead under the lakes, Crystal Reservoir and also San Andreas Lake, I think. And there are further like tunnels within the tunnels that lead down layers into the down further into the earth, which we understand from Stacy Sutton link to the fault, which I understand is the San Andreas Fault. So Zorin is already flooded, or is already in the process of flooding the Hayward Fault through his oil wells. Now in the final act of the film, I think we're seeing his attempt to try to flood, when they say it's time to flood the fault in question here is the San Andreas Fault. And it makes sense too, because they say San Andreas Lake is right above us. And also they also describe when Stacy Sutton and Bond are investigating in City Hall just after she was fired at night. They find the little map, and they find reference to Main Strike, and they say, oh, she said, I know that's an abandoned silver mine by the San Andreas Fault. So the whole thing at the very end, I understand, is they're trying to flood what is the San Andreas Fault. And I think they succeed, because they detonate the bombs that will destroy the structure that will bring down what we understand is San Andreas Lake. So all that water comes and floods San Andreas Fault. Okay, so by the end of, within that final act, we see that both faults at this point are flooded. Now, what does that mean? Faults are flooded. Now, I don't quite know what that means. What I think it doesn't mean is, so it doesn't necessarily mean that water will therefore be released, and that water that is flooding the fault itself, that's not going to be flooding Silicon Valley, right? Because that doesn't quite make sense to me. But what I think it means is that the way that the water floods the fault means that there's some kind of stress or weight added to a particular aspect of the plates there, or the plate division, or the plate line. And so the addition of water, I think, creates more pressure, and that added pressure will cause an increase in the possibility of an earthquake or a movement. And if that's the case, then that will cause the earthquake. And so the addition of the water, I understand, will cause the plates to move in a violent fashion. Plus, according to Stacy Sutton, there is a key geological lock underneath where they are in the Main Strike mine, which keeps the faults from moving at once, according to what Stacy Sutton says. But if that is exploded with the amount of explosive that is set down in that underground chamber there, once that explodes, then that will cause the release of these two flooded faults. And once these faults which are flooded, which adds extra pressure, that added pressure will then, plus the explosion of the lock the geological lock, will therefore cause this huge set of earthquakes, one source from the Hayward Fault and then the other source from the San Andreas Fault. And this combination of these two violent earthquakes, I think, will cause, I'm not sure what this means, but maybe it will mean that the ground level will submerge below the water level. Because of the submersion of the ground level via the water level, then the water will, of course, enter into this now submerged area, which would be the Silicon Valley area. And that's the whole plot, I think. So, I mean, it's really complicated, actually. And so if I have it wrong, please let me know. If there are any geologists here, let me. Again, it's also film too, so I'm not saying that it would work in real life. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that's what I think the explanation is in the context of the film. And of course, therefore, it means that the whole key is not the act of the flooding of the faults themselves, but it's the release of the lock. That is the key in order to release the energy that we understand is now being stored up in the fault zones, the Hayward Fault and the San Andreas Fault. And once that lock is exploded, that will release the earthquakes that will then submerge the ground level of the area of Silicon Valley, thus causing the water to come. So the whole key is the explosion of the lock. And that is where the explosive device is supposed to come in. 9:41 is when the explosive device is supposed to set off, because in order to take advantage of the spring tide for maximum effect, right? Because we understand this is all to do with water level, right? It's not to do with the water that is flooding the faults, but it's all to do with the water level, right? So spring tide for maximum effect, 9:41. That's what the whole point is. That's why we have on the bomb 0941, which I understand is a reference to the time that it's supposed to detonate. So, that I think is a really over-the-top, outlandish plot. And in the documentary, there is a quick excerpt from an interview with Richard Maybaum, who's one of the writers, the writer of the film. And he explains in this excerpted interview about how he thinks this is one of the cleverest, most surprising plots in all of the Bond films he's been involved in. Now, I'm not sure if that was hyperbole for the sake of the interview itself or not, but if we were to take him at his word, I believe it, and I understand it, and I agree with it 100%, because it is very complicated. And the structure of the film, therefore, in my view, is brilliant, because we have the first half, which actually arguably has nothing to do, specifically anyway, with Operation Main Strike, except that we see the participants who are going to be involved in Main Strike later. We see them in and out. We see Conley, we see Dr. Mortner, we see, of course, Grace, Mayday, and Jenny Flex, and Zorin, of course, and Scarpine, but we don't necessarily see them working out the plans. Only when the film hits San Francisco do we see the beginnings of Main Strike. And I should say further that we never get the villain reveal necessarily of this, which I love. It's very similar to the way that the information is revealed in Goldfinger. We get this grand setup, but we don't get the specific plot explanation from the villain. It's up to Bond to try to put the pieces together himself. The same is true for this film, A View to a Kill. We get there's a point in City Hall when Bond says, "Why don't you enlighten me?" And Zorn says, "You're out of your depth," right? So he doesn't even bother to explain it, which is great. I think it leaves us, the viewer, to wonder what exactly is he planning. And I think it's down to the explanation from Stacey Sutton to try to put the pieces together. And I think she does a really great job, the character Stacey Sutton does, and which is one of the reasons why I think she is a great character. She is the detective in this film, and she solves the mystery brilliantly. And so that is, for my money, one of the great, it's one of the reasons why I think this film is so great. So, and it's complicated, overly complicated. As I say, I don't even know if I get most of it. So please help me fill in the gaps if you have any extra information. But in any event, there's that. So I think my it's a little bit. Maybe my kid is now awake. So let me, if you don't mind, excuse me. Let me just go out of the room and just tend to my child here. But I will be back in about a minute or two. So just hold on for 1 second, please. Sorry about this. Let me just go. Be back momentarily. Okay. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. There we go. Sorry about that. Just trying to. It's early morning here in Japan, so my child was awake, but now it's still a little bit early. So now he's back to bed, so we can now go back to discussing A View to a Kill. So, all right. So with that, let me now go to the live chat. So let's see. Timothy asks, "Do you think Grace Jones is a pretty woman, Daisuke? Just curious." I think she looks great. Yeah, she's beautiful in this film. She looks great, and there's a kind of interesting aspect to Mayday's character. It's outlandish, over the top. There's a particular moment that when she's doing the martial arts training with Zoran, and Zoran manages to get her on the mat, and she's struggling to get. It's like, oh, I love that moment so much, and then it goes into this moment of kissing between Zoran and Mayday, and then it's interrupted, and you can tell Mayday was really kind of in the mood, as it were. So, I think she looks great. Yeah. And so yeah, I know of the sort of background, Grace Jones, and there were some stories about how she was on set, etc., and how Roger Moore might have felt about that. So, but as far as the performance goes and her look, and yeah, I think she looks great. Let's see. Yeah, Erwin says yes. Aubergine and that cab driver even worse as French stereotypes. I don't know if I'd call them French stereotypes. Um, I don't think that's true for the French taxi driver, to be honest. And Aubergine, I never saw Aubergine's character as a French stereotype. I saw it more as a kind of copy of the Agatha Christie Hercule Poirot character, because his name is Achille Aubergine, and he's got this mustache, which, as we know, Hercule Poirot as a character was very keen on his mustache, and Hercule Achille. And so, and Achille, and I, Achille Aubergine, intend to find it. So he seems to have this air of cockiness. Aubergine does, which is not dissimilar to the type of character that Hercule Poirot is in the Agatha Christie novels, crime novels. So I always thought of Aubergine as a kind of copy of a Hercule Poirot type. But I understand your comment, Erwin, though. Let's see. Zyrother says Grace Jones is the best part of the film. Let's see. Okay, now. My goodness, all of you are just, you are just fantastic in the chat as always. Thank you so much for this. This is great. You are so wonderful, all of you. I don't even need to be here. All of you just, this is great. Thank you so much. Yes. Oh, Tom is here. Yes. Tom, what's this here? Hello, it's nice to see you. Seth Walsh, I'm sorry, I skipped over. Seth Walsh says, the cinematography of this film is great too. I love when Bond brings the champagne to Stacy. Such a cool shot. Yeah, I agree. And it's the first moment of meeting between the two characters. And we understand later that this is after Stacy has received the check, a $5 million check from Zorin Bank. And so, but she doesn't cash the check later, as we realize. Because and we understand that the whole point of Stacy Sutton is that her grandfather and then later her father ran what is known as Sutton Oil, which is an oil company. And then when it came time for her to inherit, it seems like Zorn used what's known as a proxy fight in shareholding, which is in essence trying to take over the company through equity. And so Stacy Sutton tries to keep control of the company. And in order to have control of the company, you need to have majority stake in the equity shares of the company, right? If it's a traded company of this sort. And so therefore we understand that she is suing Zorin in court for what is maybe some kind of contractual breach, I'm assuming, of some shareholders agreement that would prohibit this kind of shareholding takeover activity that we understand Zorn seems to be engaged with. And in order for Zorn to essentially settle out of court, because we understand that she's taking him to the courts, that's what she says. So we understand that Zorin's attempt to settle it out of court is this payment of $5 million, which is more than what the shares are worth. So it's in essence trying to purchase the shares from Stacy Sutton, but she decides, right, she's not going to give in, and that leads to even more fortitude and steadfastness on the part of Stacy Sutton, which is another reason why I think Stacy Sutton is a great character. She is very she is so intent on protecting her family legacy, Sutton Oil, against the interests of someone like Zorin. And so she resists the $5 million, which I think is a very bold move. I don't know, if I were faced with someone giving me a $5 million check, I would seriously consider it, to be perfectly honest. But she rips it up. And so that is, I think, a really strong show of force and confidence and strength. So I think she's really great. I know there are some, maybe the criticisms against Stacy Sutton is that maybe that she screams and she says, "James, don't leave me, James," but that is, I think, very understandable when we understand where it comes from. It came from the fact that she was trapped in this elevator shaft that was on fire in City Hall, right, in San Francisco. And so this is a really unusual situation, and so I give her the benefit of the doubt there, because it's a really scary situation. Again, what's going to happen? Is the elevator going to fall? It's smoke. I can't breathe, etc. It's hot, etc. And then so we understand that there was a physical toll on her because she was almost fainted which caused Bond to need to go down in that triumphant show down the ladder there, and the great John Barry music. So I think that's a perfectly reasonable reaction to have on the part of Stacey Sutton. And also the other moment is the blimp at the end. How can you not notice a flying blimp flying right behind you? I get that joke as well. But I suppose if we were to give Stacey Sutton again the benefit of that, there just had been an explosion outside the entrance to the main strike mine, which was so loud and so forceful that it even knocked her off her feet. We see her little shot where she falls down on the ground there. And so it was really, we can understand, it was a really big explosion. It didn't ignite all the explosives that are in the underground chamber there, thank goodness. Speaking of which, I would hate to be the person in charge of unloading all that explosive from the mine. I don't know. I don't want to be that person working in the government in charge of that. Maybe it's Stacey Sutton. I don't know. But as well as, too, the water in the fault. How are you going to get the water out of the Hayward Fault and the San Andreas Fault? Because you can't just leave it like that, right? Because that's a really dangerous situation. But oh well. But anyway, the explosion that caused Stacey Sutton to get knocked onto the ground was very loud, I can assume. And so maybe it momentarily had affected her hearing. I'm not sure. But in any event, I can take those circumstances and quote unquote forgive the moment when Stacey Sutton and the blimp. And again, also, she is very strong and resourceful, but she hasn't been in these situations in real life, like being chased through mine shafts and being in elevator shafts that are on fire, and being in a fire truck chase and seeing an explosion. She's just she's someone who works at City Hall, who's a geologist, and so I'm okay with her acting in a certain way in these extraordinary circumstances. And then on the top of that, she provides, as I say, all this information. She puts the mystery together as to what's going on with Operation Main Strike, and she is very strong. She doesn't, like when the Zoran henchmen come and attack her in her house, she's still fighting them. Maybe there is a difference in physical strength between her and one of the henchmen that she's fighting, but still, she doesn't hesitate. She tries to fight, and she also is so aggressive, and she's fearless that even in the blimp at the end, she's attacking Zoran, and it's enough of it's really great because it causes the blimp to crash in there, so it gives her an advantage, and Bond an advantage too. And then even when she's on the top of the Golden Gate Bridge there, I think she's in high heels. My goodness, that's you need to have a certain level of physical capabilities in order to maintain one's balance, right? I mean, I can't imagine wearing high heels on the top of the Golden Gate Bridge. So that's brilliant right there. And also when she falls and then she grabs a foothold and she's on the side there on top of the Golden Gate Bridge, even when she's there, when Zorn has his leg slips a bit, she takes the initiative and she tries to grab Zorn. So she, even at the very end, she is fighting. So yeah, these are all reasons why I think Stacey Sutton as a character is fantastic. And I mentioned it before, there's that great moment when she's driving home from work at City Hall, and she's driving in her what is it, a Jeep Cherokee? I'm not sure, but she's driving, and you get the great John Barry music, da da da, and we hear the radio, and then we get driving by. I think it's the San Andreas Lake, and then she's driving over a bridge or something, and she's eating. Is it a potato chip or a little rice cracker? I'm not sure. Did they have rice crackers in 1985? I'm not sure, but maybe it's a potato chip. But that's the sort of thing you do when you're driving alone after a day's work, and you stop by the grocery store. You have a little thing, and you just want to munch on something, and that's a wonderful real life moment, I think. Listening to the radio, driving home. And then Tanya Roberts, excuse me. So, and then she looks great in this. And so there's this kind of, there's this kind of I mean, and then there are all these details that I know don't make sense in the grand scheme of things, but it's not to the fault of Stacey Sutton or Tanya Roberts. Like, how could she still wear her white dress underneath the costume that she's wearing at the very end when they're in the main strike mine? Doesn't make sense. Or how come her dress is still clean even when she's falling all over the Golden Gate Bridge? Oh yeah, okay, but that's part of the movies. That's part of the movie magic. But that's not the fault of the character. So I think she is one of the best James Bond friends in the series. So I will also go down defending Stacey Sutton as a character to the very end. I think she's one of the best. But anyway, let me go back to the chat. Excuse me. Michael. Okay, so Michael. So thank you very much for the correction. So you said Michael is good. Thank you very much. Dinobot Curious says, I also love Christopher Walken and the scene of him throwing that guy off the plane. Yes. It's right, throwing the guy. So it's the right half our net income. These are outrageous terms. I suppose maybe if he could have added that extra line there from You Only Live Twice, if he could have said closing crater, that would have been perfect. Or maybe when he was walking down the steps and he sees the thing open, he said, opening crater, and then when the thing closes, he said, maybe someone could have said closing crater. I don't know, but anyway, yes, you're right. Throwing that guy off, and it's Mayday too, who does the button pushing. And speaking of that scene, that's such a great scene. You look carefully. There's also an actor who appears in Live and Let Die in that corporate scene there, with the whole thing with the Silicon Valley, and that's a great reveal, by the way. And that's also the first time we hear the theme from John Barry. You know, that ominous da 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 da. Another great John Barry score element there, and that's carried through this. Now is the second half of the film. Excuse me. But yeah, that moment, that reveal, we don't know it's a blimp until we actually see the guy falling out of it, and just like the way that the legs are. It's obviously it's a dummy. And then the pants are about to fall off because of the speed in which the dummy is falling through the air, and we get that wonderful what is it? What's that yell? I don't know what the technical term is, but it's the Gobinda yell. It's the Necros yell, and it's also the guy, the Moonraker opening, the pre-credit sequence yell. It's whenever someone falls through space, I suppose, or the air, someone has to yell in that manner. And he kind of, I like, it's not even just that, it's like, and then it stops, and then he's silent, and then he has to yell again. That's great. And then another detail too is Grace Jones, her sunglasses that she puts on with the ovals. You look at that; it's like one is horizontal, the other is vertical. Those are cool looking sunglasses. And then the great topping is the line. All right, does anyone else want to drop out? And then you can see that Grace Jones is just laughing. Excuse me. Sorry. So you can tell that Grace Jones, they're just laughing, and they have this great, wonderful rapport, and there's a little wink. So Grace Jones's glasses are great. The camaraderie between Zorin and Mayday is great. The reveal of the blimp is great. The whole thing with the microchips and Zorin's little, when the model appears, that's great too. And then there's a little cut to Mayday, and she smiles, and she loves the theatrics of the moment. And it's a great speech too. It's essentially it's a pitch, right? It's a business pitch because he's trying to get capital, I suppose, to raise money for Main Strike. Yes, so the sunglasses of Grace Jones or Mayday in that moment are, I think, so cool, which leads into a discussion of, aren't the sunglasses in this film, aren't they the best? We get the sunglasses at the beginning with Roger Moore in the pre-title sequence, or with his coat, with that wonderful fur coat or whatever it is, which is great. And then you notice he doesn't get really mad until the explosions and the attack knock him off, and he has to fall down, and he falls down, and his glasses fall. And once his glasses fall, you know that there's no now he means business, and that's when he destroys the helicopter there. And so that's great. Then there's also those great sunglasses that he uses at the chateau, and he has the little things that can what's the phrase? He can adjust the lighting in order to see through blocked glass. So those are really cool. And then there's the Mayday glasses, and which I think are the iconic ones, the Zorin glasses. Those glasses are so cool. And when they fall off, when he's in the blimp at the end, when Stacy attacks him from behind, that's so cool. And then just the look of that, the Zorin look with the glasses and the hair, and just the way there's this menace. There's so much to be said about the glasses and the sunglasses in this film. Great stuff. Okay, sorry about that. So, yeah. So let's just. Dinobot says this has to be one of my favorite theme songs. Yes, Duran Duran, and I'll get to that in a minute. Wolfgratz, force of habit. Bond sees when Bond beds women, he just can't control himself. It's also Roger Moore. This is Roger Moore's Bond, and he's got this. Roger Moore's so charming in this. I'll have to speak about Roger Moore's performance later in a moment, but let's see. Yes, Cooper Clever talks about the disclaimer at the beginning of the film in Zorin, which is very interesting. Yeah, Anonymous Fowler, hello, it's nice to see you. I hope you're well. Zorin Company. Yes, Henok is here. Hello, my dear friend. That's great. Yeah. Cooper Clever's talking about the scene between Bond and Mayday in bed, which I think is a really that is a really great moment in Roger Moore Bond history, because you could tell she is so physically forceful, which is I think a very comic moment. And it's also a moment too where you understand that Mayday at the moment she became, I think, sexually excited when she was sparring with Zorin there, and then they were interrupted because you could tell she was a little bit frustrated. So maybe she was a little bit. It was okay. She wasn't in. She was maybe feeling the moment as well, as it were, and so. I think that's the timing of it is also very interesting in that respect. Plus, also it's Roger. It's the only way he can escape from the situation, because they've already discovered that Bond isn't in his room. It's interesting that they didn't necessarily put together the fact that he had the tape recording, which was simulating the sound of his snoring, but. That's where they figure out that he was the man at the Eiffel Tower, and then so it leads Mayday to go to her room to get dressed, and she finds Bond there, or I should say St. John Smythe, and so, but that was the only way that I think he could disarm the situation, while still maintaining the storyline, the St. John storyline, the cover. And also while continuing the investigation, because the investigation isn't quite over, I think. So, I think that's a great moment. Yeah, Erwin says, watching the whole MI6 crew at the horse race, Ascot, right? When you can really tell we are practically dealing with a bunch of senior citizens, although they are all great actors. Yeah, I mean, and this is Lois Maxwell's last appearance. We will see Desmond Llewellyn again. I love Desmond Llewellyn's line here at the beginning. She must take a lot of vitamins. I love the British pronunciation of the word vitamins. I love it. I absolutely love it. But and then we also get Robert Brown's M, of course, and then we have the introduction of Sir Godfrey Tibbett, who is, we understand, also our department, but so he works for British government. And I think this is a great moment because we really see the great camaraderie between and among these people, and we see the no-nonsense attitude between Robert Brown's M and Roger Moore's James Bond. We also see the lovely warmth between Q and Moneypenny, and also we see the Patrick Macnee and Roger Moore together, which is also wonderful, and it gives the opportunity to set up the whole cover between Tibbett and St. John Smythe, and how he is don't be so damned obsequious. I love that. I had no idea what the word obsequious meant when I first saw it. I don't think of the word obsequious often. I admit, but whenever it comes up in conversation, I'm always reminded of A View to a Kill. So, and so that whole repartee, the camaraderie between Roger Moore and Patrick Macnee is wonderful. And yeah, you can kind of see their age, but you can also tell that maybe Sir Godfrey Tibbett is a member of MI6, not because of his physical capabilities per se, but because of what he brings in terms of horse jockey, the inside information of this particular industry and world, etc. So that's why he's there, in order to investigate what's going on with the horses. He's not there necessarily to fight these henchmen, which he has to do about a third way into the film, when they're investigating the chateau at night and they see the two guards and they fight the guards. So he's not there to accompany Bond to fight necessarily. He's there to investigate the horses, which he does, and he helps Bond discover the mystery of what's going on with these horses and the horse racing. So, I can forgive the film if their fight scenes look a little bit, maybe, I don't know, maybe how should I put it? Maybe their age might show a little bit more when they're in this physical fighting. But I'm okay with that, because, as I say, it provides the opportunity for Roger Moore and Patrick Macnee to be together, and it adds an element of sinister sinister villainy to Mayday and Zorin, because we understand that Tibbett becomes what is known, and Damn Fool Idealist Crusader always describes, I think very appropriately, as the sacrificial lamb character. That is the character that is the ally of Bond, but who is killed in a way to show that the stakes are even higher, because someone close to Bond has been killed. Here it's Godfrey Tibbett, and it's done in this really creepy and chilling way, with the car wash and the music and the water. And car washes are really scary places. I never want to be in a car wash. There are two places that I will never go into, and that's due to being frightened as a kid from the movies. One is a car wash, and two is a body of water at night. I will never swim in a pool or in like an ocean at night. It scares me. I don't know I can't see what's swimming there. I won't swim anywhere at night, and I won't be in a car wash. Yeah, and that's due to Godfrey Tibbett and Mayday. That's scary stuff right there. And that's great for the film, because it means that someone as lovable as Patrick Macnee is oft, and it shows the level of villainy of Mayday and Zorin, and it creates the sense of creepiness. Zorin is a super threat, and he becomes a super threat by this point of the film, which is essentially the end of the first part. Bond is, in essence, defeated. He is not able to stop the horse racing activities of Zorn. Zorn has essentially defeated him in this first part. So it really shows the threat that Zorn and Mayday pose to Bond, and that leads into the second half of the film. And there's a tagline I mentioned before, but there's a tagline to the marketing of this film. Has James Bond finally met his match? Whenever, and I always think back to this scene, because it's this scene which shows me that yes, indeed, James Bond has met his match, because Zorn is really a formidable foe in all senses of that phrase. So yeah, all right, so okay. Seth Walsh says, Mayday was a great henchwoman. I love when bad guys become good guys later in the movies. She had a unique villain style as well. Yes, I agree 1,000%. Yes. So let's see. Cooper Clever 70s more seems a little aged for the films. I wrote a little. Yeah, there are I mean, there are a lot of Roger Moore, like, oh, I think there are like at least 3 or 4, maybe more. I think we get one in the we get a little bit of when he's in the trying to grab onto the raising drawbridge there at the beginning. We get another one, I think, when I want to say we get another one when he's hanging on the fire truck ladder. We actually get a nice one, like, we swing me back, and of course we get one where when I think he punches the guy out, who's the truck driver, the next morning. When he goes like that, which is a great moment. I love how the truck driver just he flies out of the frame there, and we also get one when he's hanging off of the balloon. We get 2 of them. I think we get one where he's flying and he almost, his legs or his crotch hits one of the top of the balloon. And then we get another one when the rope falls. When he's tied the rope to one of the support beams of the Golden Gate Bridge there, and then we get another one at the end of the film, which is a great capper, when he's in the shower with Stacy, and I've dropped the soap. I'll get it. Oh, that's not the soap. Only in the era of DVD and Blu-ray, when you can get the subtitles to those scenes, you understand what it is they're talking about. My goodness, what risque dialogue we're talking about. But in any event, so we get one last Roger Moore, like, James, and then so we get so at the very end, we get one last Roger Moore-ism hurrah, which is the but this time it's not said out of anguish or stress, but it's set out of pleasure. So that's the great way to end the Roger Moore era right there, which is with which has a complete, I think, double entendre, triple entendre meaning. I'm not sure, but yes. The Roger Moore's age. I get it. I understand it, and I still think maybe despite it, or it doesn't show. I think he looks great. He looks really great, and there is this charm and undeniable spirit to his performance. When he's with Stacy, there's a moment when he's in the house after he's fixed the telephone wires. He goes back into the bedroom, and Stacy's already asleep. And there's a moment where he covers her up, and then we find out the next morning that he slept all night in the chair on guard. Wow, what a lovely moment for Bond there. As a sort of knight in shining armor moment for Bond. Roger Moore's Bond. Shout out also to the sharper image. Do you remember the sharper image? Whenever I was a kid and we'd go to the local mall, when I was living in the United States at the time, there was that store, the Sharper Image, which was the coolest place in the world. You go there and like, what are all these gadgets? What are these things? I have no idea what that, but they look cool and they look great. But anyway, so that's the Sharper Image. And we know that he uses the Sharper Image card to get into the house. But going back to Roger Moore's performance, there's a softness and a tenderness to Bond, which I think is almost light years away from the performance of Bond that we saw, say, in The Man with the Golden Gun. Don't get me wrong, I thought The Man with the Golden Gun is a great performance and is a great film. It's a different performance, though, than what we saw there in this film, in that film, which is to say that Roger Moore, I think, is showing us a lovable Bond, I think, and someone who is concerned, and he's trying to get at the bottom of the situation. I think also in these later films, Octopussy 2, there are some great Roger Moore acting moments, and we'll get to that film when we get to it. But I think his performance is great, and the situations are great, and it's in many ways what we see in this film is iconic Roger Moore Bond stuff. I mean, think about it, right? I mean, for example, the way that he battles the villain at the end, Max Zorin, he does it in a way that's so iconic. This is an iconic way, and it's so climactic. I don't think we've ever had this kind of climactic fight between Bond and villain, maybe in any past film like this. I mean, maybe Scaramanga versus Bond, I mean, that was pretty climactic, I admit. Kananga versus Bond, that was also pretty climactic. But this is like, they're on the top of the bridge. This is like, I don't know, Alfred Hitchcock North by Northwest type of territory. And so it's brilliant. And what I like too is that Bond, he uses that little thing of the axe, and he grabs onto the axe thing, and then he uses it as leverage in order to knock Zorin off, because all Zorin has is, as long as Zorin has the axe and his hands are on the handle, Zorin has the upper edge. So Bond knows that the strategy is to take Zorin's grip off of the handle. Once he does that, he just has to wait until Zorin slips of his own accord. And that's what happens. And so and there's a moment where Zorin falls, and then we see a shot of Roger Moore. He looks up and he looks down. He brings himself back up and he looks down to see what happens. That is such a cool Roger moment shot right there. So my point is that this is a film that has cool Roger Moore shots like that, and it has iconic moments that are really that are so high level in the Roger Moore universe. And I think, for example, the Zorin Bond fight is one of the best head villain fights in all of Roger Moore's films, and in fact, I would say in all of the Bond films overall. So that's a great fight, and so kudos to Roger Moore for being able to pull that off. And still, there's a warmth, you know. Stacy, you there? And I like that thing, you betcha. I love that line, you betcha. And there's never a cab when you want one. And then, so there, Roger Moore, I think, is great. Right? So, right, of course, and I think he even recognized that maybe the time had come for him to maybe step down from the role, and so. But great stuff. I thought it was a great way to end the Roger Moore era, and he did it with such class and grace. And you won't see any complaints from me. That's for sure. I mean, I get the criticism, and I've already acknowledged that. But as far as my own personal enjoyment, it doesn't affect it in the slightest. Let's see. Okay. Just skipping over some of the I'm just oh, damn fool is here. Hello. Watched the Japanese lasers last night. Thank you so much, my friend. Samuel Stevens is here for a few minutes. Maybe you've left already, my friend, but just in case you're still here, yes, I love Grace Jones in this movie, one of the best Bond villain girls in Mayday. Yes, but my favorite part of is the faux British mystery setup at Zorn's country estate. Yes, yes, that's a great setup, and it has really plot-wise almost nothing to do directly with the second half of the film, which is so cool, which is a great setup. It's almost like Kamal Khan cheating in the casino in Octopussy, or it's Goldfinger cheating at cards, but it's extended over this essentially first third or first half of the film, which is brilliant. Oh, okay. And then sandwiched in between these two major components, the first half and the second, are these scenes with Gogol and the cage and Dolph Lundgren, right? And then the scene in the blimp. That's great, or one of the blimps, because he has at least two blimps, so that's great stuff. Yeah, Damn Fool says, it was a shock for me first realizing the low reputation as a kid. Same here. Same here. It was the second film I saw, and its tone is the most rewarding aspect throughout. Yes, I agree. I think it's one of the best Bond films, period. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, Erwin, the one bit that still really bugs me is the Beach Boys moment. Yeah. Yeah. At the very beginning. I guess if I were to be positive about it, I could say it's just a moment of levity. John Glenn tends to do this. It's almost like it's like the winking statue in License to Kill. It just comes and goes. It does have this abrupt quality to it. I know, because it's in the middle of the sequence. But I suppose even if one doesn't like it, it just goes. It's a quick moment, and it goes, and we don't see similar types of music uses later in the film. So that's how I can maybe respond to that. But I understand completely what you say, though. Yes, Seth says, anyone else think that iceberg submarine was shaped interestingly? Yes, you could tell it was it had that same look it had that same, that's not really a rock in Diamonds Are Forever, the bit in Diamonds Are Forever when the opening opens in the middle of the desert, which is the secret passageway to Willard White's lair. So it doesn't look like the rest of the rocks in the desert. The same thing here with the iceberg submarine. It doesn't quite look. It looks a little bit grayer. So maybe it gone through. Maybe Q was thinking ahead and maybe thinking of polluted icebergs. I don't know. So maybe in a state of pollution it would really fit in. But this was still in a sort of pristine looking part of the world. I don't know. But anyway, let's see. Yeah, Damn Fool mentions David Bowie. Yes, David Bowie. Yes. Damn Fool also says, ironically, Roger goes out with an ooh. Yes. I just mentioned that. Yes. Ooh. All right. Okay, so I'm going to have to do something here. My battery power is at 10%, so I'm going to unclip my microphone. Excuse me. The sound is going to be a little bit bad for the remainder of the live chat, but that is unavoidable because I need to use the jack in order to plug in the... Uh-oh, now this is going to be a problem too. I hope this is going to be a problem too. Now let's see what I can do here. There's some technical issues here because my charger, for whatever reason, is not charging today, and so it looks like I don't think my charger is going into the... So we're getting a close-up of a giant close-up of my hand, so I apologize. Oh gosh, I didn't even know if my charger is working. So just hold the fort for one moment while I try to solve this, because if I don't, then the battery will die, and the live stream will end. So just can you hold the fort in the live chat, and just let me try to solve this. I apologize for this, but technical issues do occur, and so let me just try to if okay, I'm gonna say this: if for whatever reason the live chat cuts out, I apologize, but that's due to the battery pay. Am I back? Okay. Yes. There we go. Yep, I'm back. Okay, so all right, so it might cut out. If that's the case, I will come back through my computer, which is not the ideal way. But if it does cut out, then the best way to do it is I will do it through my computer, and then I will do a second game. Hello, hello again. All right, we'll end. Whoops. Okay, I'm back. I think I'm back. Sorry about that. Technical things do occur. Now I think the battery should be okay, I think. But if it cuts out again, I may have to start a new stream. So if it happens, then please forgive me. Now these are things that happen, so I apologize. But so I hope everyone's back. Yes, great, excellent. Thank you very much. Now I'm gonna have to see where I am in the live chat. Oh my goodness, is that true about Peter Lamont? I didn't know that. Oh no. Oh my goodness. Oh, I didn't. Oh my goodness. All right. That is very sad. Okay, still. Okay. All right, so we're back, but again, if the feed cuts out again, then I apologize. I'm doing my very best here, but it is possible that it could happen. So I might, if all else fails, I might have to just restart or do a completely new feed. So if it cuts out, and if you're still looking for, you can either go home and do something else, or if you want to just have a nice continuation of the the live chat, then maybe I'll start it up again with a different live chat. So just go back to the main section of my channel, and I'll start it up again in case it cuts out again for anyone who's interested. So so again, I apologize for the technical issues here, but hopefully it should hold out between now and the end. I'll try to go on for another hour or so, and we'll see what happens. So, but I'm so sorry. Yeah, so I'm just trying to find the best place to go here. Randy Paula's here. Hello. Damfool says, "Drat, drop the soap" is admittedly not the most Bondian line. Yeah, but I think it maybe it fits well in the, like, I could see Pierce Brosnan saying that line really well. You know what I mean? So I can't see Timothy Dalton saying that line. Drat, drop the soap, or something like that. Yeah. 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 I can see Brosnan say it. I can see I can't see Connery saying it. I can see George Lazenby saying it, and I definitely see Roger Moore saying it. Daniel Craig, I don't know. I'm not sure. Oh gosh, wow. Uh, that's not the soap. Yeah, I don't know. Well, anyway, let's see. All right. Yeah, Zyrotha says also Q is a total creep. He knew he knew they were there. Yes. Oh, just cleaning up a few details. Oh, yeah. But yeah, yeah. Oh, Richard is here. Hello. Let's see. Yeah, sharper image stuff there. I suppose the next thing I can do, well, is just focus in also on the one of the another aspect that I really love, which is the villains. The villains of this piece are, I think, superb, and it's a great rogues gallery. And so we have, of course, well, let's start with we have Panho and Jenny Flex, and I must give a shout out to Jenny Flex. Cut out again. Let's see here. This is not so good today. All right. Oh, this is not so good. So, well, if I were Zoran, I think I would be like, you know, get back to work or something. But let's see. So what was I saying? Yes, so we'll just keep on trucking. But anyway, Jenny Flex is the must give a shout out to Jenny Flex and the Jenny Flex walk. I love that walk. There's a real a subtle villainy type of way in which she walks. So I like that, and she's one of the main allies, if you will, of Zorn, or probably Mayday, especially when we see how Mayday reacts when she discovers Jenny's dead after the flooding of the fault. And so, Jenny, oh, right. So she's very moved, and she's very affected by Jenny Flex's death. So you can tell. So there's a camaraderie between and among these women, we assume. And there's also the Scarpine. And so I love Scarpine, Patrick Beauchot playing Scarpine, who is a very celebrated actor and performer. And he's been in, I think, a lot of very famous roles. This is one of, I think, for me anyway, this is one of his, one of the roles that I remember him most. And as Scarpine with a little scar there, which we don't quite know what happened. And also there is this way in which he's has this dry, almost matter-of-fact, nonchalant way of delivering dialogue. And there's a moment too when we first see him introduced to Bond. There's a little bit where there's a little bit of a delay between when Bond says a line and when Scarpine says a line. So maybe it was a bad take of a particular scene, or it's just Scarpine's way of speaking. I'm not sure, but as the film develops, we see how villainous Scarpine is as maybe Zoran's right-hand man. And I love also the very end when they escape the mine and they throw off the hard hats, and he says, "Away!" And he says, "Up and away!" when they get into the blimp, accompanied, of course, by the wonderful, it's like, what is it? Away! It's great stuff. So that's Scarpine. And of course, at the very end, Scarpine's like what are you serious? You want me to go out there? But yeah, you go get him, go. And he's willing to go out there. But of course, Stacy Sutton intervenes at the right time. And so Zoran has to take care of it himself. So that shows dedication right there. Although you have to think that if Zoran is so quick to double cross all of these people, including Mayday, then who's to say that he won't in an instant turn on Scarpine? So you have to wonder what Scarpine's thinking is. But Scarpine is very dedicated. And if you notice, remember at the end there in the blimp, and when Zoran says, this'll hurt him more than me. He's like laughing at everyone, and even Dr. Mortner at that point is like, "What are you talking? Why are you? Why are you joking like?" But you could tell as Scarpine is driving, you could tell he's kind of smiling. He's going along. It's like he's laughing at his boss's joke. Sometimes if you have a superior or something and they say a joke, you kind of have to laugh along. I gotta get that sense from Scarpine at that particular moment. So he's a very loyal agent and right hand man of Zoran. So that's Scarpine, and then we have to, of course, mention. Um, uh, uh, um, let's see. We have to mention Dr. Mortner or Hans Glaub. I like how Chuck Lee says Glaub, so it's which is a really weird and kind of dark background in terms of what his character represented and how it led into what we assume is some kind of for lack of a better phrase, some kind of genetic manipulation. Okay, my friends, I think what we're gonna have to do, and I apologize for this, is okay. Let's call this part one. I'm gonna have to cut this off because the phone is dying on me, and so I can't. This is not gonna work out. I'm gonna cut this off, and I'm gonna switch to my computer, and I'm gonna start a new live stream feed. So this is going to cut off. This is going to end, but we'll go to a new feed. I apologize. We're going to have to. All the live chat stuff is going to go away. Let's cut this off. Start a new feed, and anyone who wants to leave or doesn't want to continue on, that's okay. So thank you very much for joining. Anyone who wants to continue on, or a few more things I want to say, I will use my computer, and we will go from there. So I'm going to cut this off, and we'll start a new live stream shortly. So anyone who wants to join me, please check the channel page, and I will start it in a minute. But anyone else who wants to leave, thank you very much. I apologize for the technical difficulties. I tried my best, but apparently my best was not good enough. So, which is often the case with me in this YouTube channel. So I hope you can forgive me. But if not, that's okay too. So thank you very much for stopping by. But anyway, let's cut this off right now because my phone is dying. And so I will now cut it off. And please join in to the new live stream feed in 1 minute. Which will also be made available in my YouTube channel. So hopefully I will see you all there momentarily. So let me just cut this off, and I will see you in a minute. All right, thank you very much. Actually, let me end this first part with, I was speaking of Dr. Mortner, so let me end this first part with Dr. Mortner quote. Right, because if you remember at the end of the film, how does Dr. Mortner go out? Right, he shoots, and he decides he doesn't take one of the machine guns to try to kill Bond. He takes one of the dynamite bundles and tries to throw. Okay, so he's probably just like so enraged because his I guess his creation Zoran has been killed, and so he's there at the end like, oh, Max, and he's gonna do all this stuff, and at the very end he's like and the dynamite, he loses control of the dynamite, and Scorpion's like, get rid of it, and then like, so that's the way I'm gonna end this first part. So